Welcome, everybody, to the Rouxgaroux Coaches Show right here at the Brookshire's Grocery Arena. I want to introduce a very special guest, but first, it's your host,
Chris Smith.
And Wes Merriott with SOBO Live. This is the only place every week where you'll get to talk to the coaches and staff of the Louisiana Rouxgaroux, which is one of the only professional football teams in Louisiana. I think there's one other one not doing so hot. They don't have a record like the Rouxgaroux. So I want to introduce our guests. Please introduce ourselves to everybody at home.
Hey, guys. My name is Cameron Thurley, Coach Cam. I coach the wide receivers. I coach the running backs. Been coaching for a little while now. I've played for head coach Blair before, and he brought me on to everything because he knows my knowledge of the game. He knows how much I love coaching itself, and he took a chance on me, and just want to make sure that get these guys ready, but it's something that I'm really excited about, getting to do podcasts with y'all.
Heck yeah.
It went from not even imagining that I'd be doing anything like this to all of a sudden getting a text, seeing a fancy setup, and we're rolling. This is awesome.
It's not that fancy, but we want to make sure that we present a professional product, just like this is a professional football team. People ask me all the time, like, what is the Louisiana Rouxgaroux? And I tell them this is a professional football team. And when they say, well, what does that mean? I say, well, the players are playing to accelerate their career. Some of these have professional history, and it's a full-blown entertainment. Everything from the pregame festivities to halftime to watching like some really high-impact football. So it's the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big thing that a lot of people have noticed, because I'll tell them that, yep, I can now say I'm a coach of a professional football team, but one of the things that a lot of people get twisted is they hear arena and they know professional football is related only to the NFL, and that's the preconception they always have. And so every single time it's like you really have to break it down for people and be like, no, everything that we're doing here is top-tier echelon athletes. We are coaching them at the highest level that we have. We are promoting them at the highest level that we can. These guys, some of them are getting contracts. They're going and playing professional football overseas. Some of them are coming from Mexico or England, Germany, like everywhere that you can imagine where football has broken ground and kind of reached one of those highest levels. We have all of those guys within this space. It's just a little bit different than what we're used to watching on Sundays with the NFL.
Well, what's really cool in being a wide receiver and running backs coach is you get to see like them completely unbridled by NFL or college-style rules. We were talking about the high man in motion last week during the game. How does that change how you coach a wide receiver when they have such an obvious advantage over the defense?
So, honestly, it's very small. So one of the things whenever it comes to wide receiver, running back, you got to realize you always have the advantage because you know what you're doing. The DB doesn't. You are the one taking initiative whenever a play starts, whereas the defense always has to be reactionary to you, especially in something like a man coverage. They always have to be reactionary. But whenever it comes down to how we work a defender in terms of setting up leverage or getting hips to flip in a particular direction so our release is proper, or the way we run routes, a lot of those things are still what these guys learned when they were first touching a football in elementary school. It's very, very fundamentally the same. But now you're just getting a bit of an additional advantage because no longer, like a guy like me where I'm 5'7", I don't have to worry about getting bullied on the line. You know, we get that 10-yard head start. We get that high motion. So it makes the defense's job that much harder. So whenever you pair the two together, it also makes my job a little bit easier because I don't have to worry as much about teaching, like, all right, here's exactly how you release off of a press coverage, like, against this type of man. Because if you're not good at releasing off the line, we're not going to throw you on the line. We're going to put you in high motion, and then we're going to let the other strengths of your game really shine through as we play. So, but, yeah, I hope that answers. Just ultimately, it's just like one additional factor that makes our job that much easier as receivers and running backs.
I mean, it's yesterday I was explaining to someone kind of just the basics of arena football, and we got to talking about the motion rules. And I likened it to, the NFL Combine, which we just saw recently. They do the 40, and they start in a sprinting position. Well, just imagine how fast those 40 times would be if they hit the line running as fast as they can.
Right.
So that's the advantage you get when you're already in motion before the snap. So it's a completely different game. Someone who's fast is much faster when they're already in a full sprint hitting the line. It's crazy.
Well, and for the defender, I mean, if they just slip up a little bit and that wide receiver gets behind them, I mean, that could be 6 points pretty quick.
Especially on a condensed field like this, because you can have a DB who's faster, but if they're having to react and now they're trying to build up to their top speed, but this guy's been in his top speed for like the last 3 seconds.
Right.
He doesn't have the luxury of a 100-yard field to try and close that gap anymore.
Right.
It can hit you like that. That's why you have such high-scoring games in this league, is because of how difficult it is, and defenses almost, you have to play perfect. Otherwise, you're getting 70 points dropped on you.
Yeah. I tell you what was pretty interesting to me watching the preseason game last week, because of the high motion receiver, the ability to have that advantage on offense, seeing a balanced run-pass game. I didn't expect that. I expected way more passing, and there was a lot of passing, but I didn't expect as much running plays as we saw, and so it's interesting how that's also incorporated into the game.
Well, think of the weaknesses that you expose when you really start having the passing game develop, and the defense backs up a little bit, and now you've opened up the run game. You've got somebody who can get off the line quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. Like you said, it's tough to react to that.
Oh, 100%. And not to mention, especially, one of the things that our team is very, very good at is we love to play in the trenches as well. We will have the ability to air the ball out and, commit to a normal passing game, but that's what people are going to see because those are the highlight tapes. But
right.
The nitty-gritty things that are happening in the trenches, especially when we have a guy like Chase who is leading all of those other guys surrounding him, and they are going to war because you can't really run stunts in arena.
Right.
You have to be lined up against your man. And then you pair that with our two phenomenal running backs who actually seek to hit people. They don't shy away from it. They will actively seek people out and hit them. It makes it to where, regardless of how you play as like a defensive coordinator, you're almost put kind of in a chokehold, because if you want to fully commit to stopping our pass, our run game with our running backs and our trenches is going to be unstoppable. As soon as you start pulling the defense down to try and counter that, then we have a lot of speed at the receiver position, a lot of height at the receiver position, and we have a very good arm delivering the ball to let those guys go up and make plays.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult to try and scheme to play around us, and it's kind of a pain in the butt for the other guys.
So a lot of the people who weren't at the game last week and didn't get an opportunity to see Rouxgaroux football on the field, one thing that is very different is a lot of the plays we saw on the field last week would have been flags in the NFL.
Yeah.
It is a lot more rough. It's a lot more physical.
A little more showboating.
Yeah.
I love that.
But talk about, so there's no sideline. If you run, you're going to get hit, and you're going to get hit up against a wall. You're going to go over a wall. Just talk about what is it like preparing for that when you're used to playing normal, traditional football with a sideline to not having a place to escape.
So, to put it bluntly, you got to be kind of a psychopath. If I'm being honest, you have to be kind of crazy because, before you always had the scapegoat of just kind of taking one step out of bounds, and it's like, oh, this is my protection.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore. You could be in the air. Not only are you getting hit in the ribs, you're also being sent over a wall, and someone's pizza is dropping on your head because they're that close to you. So it does require you to almost not care as much, and it requires you to have a completely different mentality to where now going over the middle and worrying about a linebacker is not the only time that you are genuinely fearing that you are going to get hit. Because you're either going to get hit by a living flesh being, or you are going to get hit by a wall that is unforgiving, that is painful, and you are still expected to hold on to that ball. You are still expected to stay up, and you are still expected to go back to the huddle and to run a play the very next down.
Yeah.
And so you really do have to be a psychopath to embrace that wall.
So one of the coolest plays last week. So we were set up right across there behind that end zone, and a running back went and went into the end zone, quarterback throws the ball, and he literally jumped up into the crowd. One of the defensive players knocked him, and he falls back into the crowd, yet he still held onto the ball, and half his body was still in the field of play, so they called it a touchdown. But he was laying in a kid's lap, catching the football.
I think just his toes were over the wall. But he was there, and the two kids around him were, like, going crazy. They were cheering. Popcorn, went flying everywhere. And the refs kind of looked a minute, and they were like, all right, it's a touchdown. And it was very exciting. It was really
a little
cool.
bit of home field advantage. Yeah. But, I mean, what's so awesome about that is, like, those kids who are freaking out, this just happened. That car ride home, that's all they can talk about. The next day at school, that's all they can talk about. I had a player land in my lap while we were playing, and I got to throw him back in and celebrate with him.
Unbelievable. And that was another thing we saw a lot, too.
Yeah.
As the wide receivers are lining up, if they were close enough, they were dapping up the people in the stands. I mean, if you were right there on the edge in one of those luxury suites, you really get a football view that is very unique. You won't get anywhere else. You'll never be that close to the action at a Saints game or in high school football or in college. You're literally like a breath away from the action, and quite possibly could be a part of the play at any moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the coolest parts. And what I loved about watching, whenever I was really deciding to hop on the coaching staff, I started watching a lot more arena ball. Started looking at games from last season a lot more to see the difference. But one of the things I wasn't even concerned about the rules at first. The first thing I absolutely loved is just how intimate this game is, because it's not like you're separated by this boundary of I am watching professional athletes, I must stay back, where there's a lot of gap. It's almost like a know your place type of thing. But this one, it's like we invite you to be down with us. We want you yelling at these guys. The corner across from your favorite player, if you get to sit there and chirp him, and you know for a fact that he's hearing you because he is 5 feet away from you. Those are the types of things that no one ever gets to do outside of arena football. And that's one of my favorite parts, is just like having that interaction, that intimacy with the fan-player engagement.
I know the owner, Keith, he spent a small fortune last week in footballs, because I bet 40 footballs went out into the audience, and that's different too. You get to, if the ball comes to you, you get to keep the ball, where in NFL or college football they make you throw it back down. So it's kind of like baseball a little bit. You get to keep the ball. And it's just the players just interacting in between plays. It's really cool. It's really cool to experience.
One thing that we had talked about at the pregame show last week was our Red Rover top dog player to watch. So after the first preseason game and going back and reviewing everything with the players and talking about the incredible score, if you were to say, hey, this is my Red Rover top dog player of the game, who would you want to single out and say, this guy made a huge effort that pushed us over the edge?
So if we're talking about it from preseason, one thing I will say, I'm terrible with names. I give everyone nicknames on the team. So I call him All-Star. Caleb. He's a receiver. The level of effort he gave, he did not, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he let a single ball touch the ground.
Wow.
And he had
what a stat.
And he had 3 touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns in that game, and really showed up when the team needed him. And so I think that level of effort, especially at the receiver position, coming back in, because he got a little bit of a late start with us, because he just recently was able to show up and actually start practicing the Thursday before the game.
Oh wow.
And so whenever you have that little time to establish a connection with your quarterback, but you still go out, you are still balling, and you are making the type of plays that we are expecting out of you, that shows a very high level of professionalism, and it shows that he's an absolute dog at the position.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story, so you can show up and say, all right, just run me through the offensive scheme real quick. Tell me put me in, tell me what route to run, and then scoring 3 touchdowns after 72 hours on the team. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
that is a great story.
That is a great story. So preparation in arena football, is it similar to regular football? Like, do you watch film? Do you watch what other teams are doing, build a game plan around that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think it's very important. I think it's important that the players also watch the film. It's also very important for both, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. All of us need to be very intentional with what we do whenever we are watching film, because there's always still going to be patterns. There's still going to be certain defensive lineups that we know how to take advantage of if we can spot that in the game itself. But I also highly encourage players to watch film, because that's where you're going to get the biggest advantage, especially if you're lined up in man coverage. You know a guy has specific tendencies, then you know how to take advantage of them with your skill set. And so from that aspect, it's very similar, but it's also very different at the same time, because there's so many different variables that comes with arena football. Our defensive coordinator, Coach T. Will, one of his favorite sayings is, here today, gone tomorrow. It is very, very fast-paced, with people being brought in, people leaving because they're getting signed to different organizations, so we're having to replace bodies. So there is a chance that I will watch film on the past 3 games of a team that we're playing against, and they will have at their X position 3 different guys lined up there. Because you can just have that revolving door of players. So it means that you have to prepare more in broad terms of the game, and you can't actually really game plan around specific players, because there's no guarantee that they're going to continue to have.
Yeah, maybe just a pattern of what kind of plays they run, or what kind of coverages, what are their tendency, when they're in man coverage, how tight are they? Does this team really focus on being like glue, or are they a little soft? Can you take advantage of it? I never really thought about the rotating team of players.
I never even considered that.
Because there's a ton of leagues, and I was looking into this a couple weeks ago when I was doing my research, trying to really understand the path for an up-and-coming former D1 player that maybe didn't make it at the Combine, but did some time at NFL Europe. There's a professional league in Japan that plays like serious ball. They can make hundreds of thousands of dollars playing professional football in Japan. Mexico has a league. It's all over. And so for a player who's trying to put together his portfolio of work, he may run in, play a couple games, have a outstanding NAL career, and then get a phone call from a development team overseas, and he says, "Hey, see you later, Bossier City. Y'all were great, but I got to go catch this cheddar."
It's that fast, and just that fast, we have to have someone in the wings ready to replace him.
And it's probably, again, I don't know, but is it possible for these players, for NFL teams to get put on NFL teams' radar? So as NFL teams are going into OTAs and off-season activities, they may get pulled from an NAL team to go sign on a practice squad of one of those teams.
I believe it was Kurt Warner who actually started out his entire professional football career in arena football. And then he got brought up to the league from there, because there's always going to be eyes on football. That's one thing. There's people's jobs where all they're responsible for is looking at talent. And it's not all. And one thing is, it never just comes from the collegiate circuit. It comes from overseas in their professional leagues. It comes from the CFL in Canada. It comes from the arena teams. It comes from the XFL. Their entire job is to always look at the pool of players and find the best talent. And so there's always the avenue for these guys to move there. Or if it's not straight from NAL to NFL, it can easily follow a path. NAL, Mexico, Japan, CFL, NFL in the span of a couple years, to where eventually they're reaching the highest echelon that football has.
And with the advent of social media and like ESPN on TikTok, if there's a big play in any league, it could be curling at the Olympics with the little boop on the stone, or when Chloe Larry a couple of years ago hit the half court, in high school state semifinals. If ESPN grabs and clips it, someone it gets thousands of views and you get instant exposure. The sport really doesn't matter, and executives, front offices, they're always looking at that. They're always going, "Hey, did you see that video?" And so it's really interesting that you can be on a trajectory that starts in the Brookshire's Grocery Arena and ends at Pro Player Stadium or AT&T Field. So that's kind of the unique thing, is there's real talent on the field here. There's professional players that you don't know where they're going to be next week or next year. And I think that's very unique. And it's
and that's something that we've tried to stress when we're explaining Rouxgaroux football, is these aren't bad athletes.
No, these aren't your Joes who just got off the couch,
They're not kids. They're not high school. Like these are professional, like adults with serious talent that have played at some of the highest levels. They've got D1 backgrounds. Some have, been on an NFL practice squad. You just never know.
Well, I mean, there's 32 NFL teams and 52 players on those teams. If you go all the way down to college and high school and middle, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of players out there. So to make it to the NFL is a very small pool of people.
I think it's less than 1% chance of people who play football that will ever reach NFL caliber. But there's definitely more than 0.5% of absolute stellar athletes. Some of them just, maybe it's the politics of the game to where they can't really make it. Maybe they didn't get invited to the combine because their school's a little bit smaller, but they're still an athlete. There's always avenues for them with the different types of professional football that are offered.
Well, and I mean, I'm an avid Saints fan during the Sean Payton era.
Me too.
He was kind of known for finding these players in no-name schools that nobody had heard of and making, Marcus Colston, Carl Nick. These are people that weren't on NFL radars, and then he brought them. And Marcus Colston is a Saints Hall of Famer and will be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And so, I mean, not everybody is going to go to LSU or Alabama or Georgia, and so it's cool that this league is there to help them get that exposure to try to make it to that level.
I think the Rouxgaroux, from their social media team to the merchandise, you guys are putting these players kind of on a pedestal for everyone to see, like, hey, we've got some real talent here. I'm really excited for the first official game this Saturday. Tell us about the Saturday's game. What do we got in store for us?
So Saturday's game, that is our first actual regular season game, and one big thing that you are going to notice in terms of difference is you are going to notice that we are also playing at a higher caliber. Because before, with the preseason game, we hadn't made the final cuts for our final roster yet. So not only were we were trying to perform, we were trying to make sure that people saw a good game, we were trying to win, but it was also the guys who were kind of on the cusp. This is your chance to kind of prove to us one more time that you should stay. And so we weren't always having our absolute best athletes on the field that we had on the team. That's completely different this Saturday. Gloves are off, and we are going out to absolutely, I'm used to saying, put heads in dirt, but I guess I can't really say put heads in dirt. We're going to throw some people over walls, and it is just going to be a different level of intensity, and everyone is... We have a very clear vision on this team. We have it determined. This is our must-win game. Absolutely, 100%. This is our must-win game. If you look on anything NAL, you will see a couple things. You will see they put us as already the worst team in the league. They put head coach Blair as the worst head coach in the league. And everyone is already counting us out. Going into our first game, that is the chip that every single one of us is walking in with on our shoulders. Everything from the coaching staff down to our players, we are not only mad at that ranking, we are coming with a point to prove, and that's something that is definitely different than we had in our preseason, because they were fighting for a roster slot, and now we are all one. We are a collective team who is sharing in a vision, and that alone is going to cause us to perform at a level that I don't even think that they know they're capable of. I know because I'm their coach, and I expect it out of them. But it's also going to bring the most out of them as players, because it's not a semi-pro team they're playing against. We are playing against professionals, and so that is going to bring the best out of you, because competition will always fuel greatness.
Absolutely.
I said it last week during our show that the championship team for NAL last year, they were first season in the NAL. They went on undefeated streak, won the championship. I view Rouxgaroux as a first season. I know that we were in the NAL last year, but we were Shreveport Rouxgaroux, different owners, different feel. And so this is truly year one for Louisiana Rouxgaroux. And so I have the expectation that we're going to run this table. We're going to go all the way, and we're going to prove them wrong. I love that, and Keith, as the owner, I almost feel like he's had a chip on his shoulder trying to build this up. He's worked overtime over the last year trying to make Louisiana Rouxgaroux a successful franchise of the NAL. And so, man, I love that. I love that y'all are taking that serious and that we're going to see some great.
Yeah, it's all had that trickle down effect because Keith has worked harder than I've ever seen anybody work because it's just been a continuous uphill battle from whenever he fully took the team under his ownership.
Yeah.
And at that point he was repairing bridges and he was building new ones, and then he brought back, of course, Coach Blair, made him the head coach, and then he really bought into the vision, and then it was collecting the pieces we need to try and make sure that everything that Keith is trying to build here, we are also respecting that, but we're respecting the people that are supporting him, that he has gotten to buy into this vision. And then from us as the coaches, it has the bleed down effects to the players. And then when we're all invested in it, we have that possibility to be a year one team who goes out, shocks everybody, and we win this league. And now all of a sudden everyone feels goofy for putting us at the bottom.
Well, I mean, it's incredible to see the bar set so high at the very top. I mean, Keith, like Chris was saying, is out there hustling to tell people about the team, to get support at home, to talk to the corporate sponsors. And when you see, the guy, he could be sitting on the couch, watching this and letting everything happen. But he's really taking the bull by the horns, bringing in Steve Walters, who I think is an incredible GM, a great background in arena football, and putting all the pieces together and saying, hey, I've done my part to give you an excellent professional organization. Now I expect my players to execute like the excellence we know you are. And I think that's where the keys to your success are is, you have all the tools in place, and you have the support of the GM, the owner. You're set up to succeed. And judging by the way that these guys practice, I mean, I would hate to be on the other side and have to worry about a 4-foot-tall hockey ledge that I'm going to get, crushed into. So it's very unique experience. I'm really excited for Saturday's game. I want to see you could kind of see last week the different levels of intensity from the opponent, and we kind of played around with them for a little bit, and then we cut loose, and the game was over. We left them in the dust. So I'm interested to see with a true professional talent on the other side, how does that iron sharpen our iron, and really what kind of football are we going to see on Saturday?
Right, and that's going to be 100% the biggest tester. One of the things to where I have the expectation of my guys, but one of the kind of brutal truths is you never really know how a player is going to react to a specific situation till they're in it.
Yeah.
And so that's why as soon as we come out, we cannot let off the gas. I'll be honest, I got mad at my guys because we let the Phantoms stay in that game for way too long. They should have never even been there.
Yeah.
It should have been from the very rip. We're running up the points. We are tallying that up. And so with that expectation, now it's can you perform at that level? Can you perform at that expectation? Because you're going up against a much harder team. It's going to be much harder. If you let them stay in it, there's no guarantee that you can, take off like we did against the Phantoms. There's no guarantee for that.
Yeah.
So we have to do it at the beginning.
Yeah, with the way the scoring is, and it's a little offensive friendly, you really can't let off the brakes on offense and defense. You have to have almost a short-term memory. If you slip up, hey, you're going to have 40 more defensive possessions. So you better get your mind right. You can't let that one go.
Just like Ted Lasso said, memory of a goldfish.
I love that you just quoted Ted Lasso. That's like my best part of this whole thing. So thank you for that.
I told the guys the exact same thing because they were getting frustrated. I was like, how many of y'all have actually seen the greatest show ever created, Ted Lasso?
It is the greatest show. No, there's no debate there. Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. But man, I'm looking forward to Saturday. I'm looking forward to this season. I mean, I think just the product we saw. I know it's just preseason, but seeing some of the intensity. I was down on the sideline, and I think it was the first, second, third play. It was after the first series. Chase comes off the field, and he's like pouring sweat. His nose is already bloodied up, and he's washing his face off. And just the intensity that he had, I was like, oh man, this is This is cool.
Oh, when Chase gets into it, it is terrifying. It is terrifying when Chase
he
gets
could
to
be
that
a big,
level.
scary guy. Like I don't want to be on the other side of your center.
But he's the guy that I want to run behind if they put the ball in my hands. He is a terrifying force of nature.
He had several pancakes. He was just dropping people left and right. He's a
he let
big,
him know
tall
it too.
guy. Yeah.
He let him know that they just got pancaked.
And this defense, man, this defense is the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the NAL is ready for Rouxgaroux defense because it is legit.
Yeah, that's one thing that it's almost frustrating sometimes in practice because I have to remember, like, we're playing up against a defense that, is probably going to be better than every other defense we play against, which means that it's so much harder for us to really spot different things and to implement different types of schemes. But at the same time, it's like my guys that I'm coaching have gotten so much better because the defense is so incredible on this team, led by Coach T. Will. He just has such a deep knowledge for the game, and I didn't realize that an arena defense could be this insane until I actually saw them like fully pad up and really start jumping into their plays, their schemes, and I think that other people, typically the saying is in arena, if you're not putting up 70, you're going to lose. I'd be surprised if a team puts up more than probably like 35 points.
The reads that our secondary gets on quarterbacks, unbelievable. I mean, we could see, I locked eyes with the safety on multiple occasions, like he is going to get an interception. And sure enough, he paused, make the adjustment, went up there, and, it was a pick immediately. And that happened over and over and over again. So I think the defense is going to be a critical part of how we succeed going to game 2, game 3, game 4.
Well, and that's got to make your wide receivers better because they're going up against arguably one of the better defenses in this league.
100%. The difference from the day one guys that walked into camp versus the guys that are out there practicing right behind us right now is a night and day difference, just because if you are going up against that level of competition, you're forced to either come up and compete at their level or you're gone.
Yeah.
And, some people, they couldn't do that. But the guys that are out here right now, the amount they have grown in just the past couple of weeks going up against our defense is absolutely insane.
Wow.
Well, Coach Cam, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we're really excited about the kickoff of the season. Again, the first game is this Saturday. Kickoff at 7:05. If you can't make it this Saturday, you can watch us on SOBO Live. Next Friday, the 13th, is going to be game 2 right here at Brookshire's Grocery Arena. So get your tickets. There's plenty of great seats available. There's not a bad seat in the house, as you can see. When you play arena football, you're so close to the action. Saturday night, we'll see you there. Thanks, guys.